Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something absolutely awe-inspiring. We are looking at the sheer, unbelievable chaos of the natural world and humanity's monumental attempt to somehow organize, map, and just understand it all. You look around, and the living world is packed with this amazing diversity of organisms. And for centuries, we humans have been trying to make sense of this whole shebang, figuring out the animate from the inanimate, and really trying to understand our own place in the middle of it. Okay, let's dive into this. Just look at the intricate detail of a seahorse. The extraordinary habitats where we find living organisms, it literally leaves us speechless. Whether we're talking about freezing cold mountains, deep deciduous forests, vast oceans, freshwater lakes, harsh deserts, or, even boiling hot springs, life just finds a way. The beauty of migrating birds or the raw power of an attacking shark, it evokes this deep sense of wonder in us. But to actually study this wonder, we have to move beyond just looking at it. We have to catalog it. And that brings us to the staggering scale of what we're actually dealing with here. Imagine walking into a super dense forest. The sheer range of organisms you'd see would be totally overwhelming. Every different kind of plant, animal, or organism you spot represents a species. Right now, get this, the number of known and described species is somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 million. It's massive. This huge number is what we call Earth's biodiversity. And remember, as we keep exploring new areas, and honestly, even revisiting old ones, new organisms are constantly popping up and being identified. So when we look at the complex molecular traffic inside a single cell, or the ecological conflict happening among populations, it makes us step back and reflect on a really profound question. What indeed is life? Now, scientists point out that this question actually has two parts. The first is purely philosophical, like, what is the ultimate purpose of life? As scientists, well, we'll leave that one to the philosophers. But the second part is highly technical. What exactly makes something living as opposed to non-living? To even begin to answer that, we have to start by identifying and organizing what's already out there.
Section 1. The global naming problem.
Trying to talk about 1.8 million species. Yeah, that creates a massive communication crisis. We all know the plants and animals in our own backyards by their local names. But here's the kicker. Those local names vary wildly from place to place. They change even within the exact same country. Imagine the utter confusion if biologists couldn't even be 100% sure they were talking about the exact same organism. So, to fix this mess, scientists stepped in and established universal procedures. For plants, they created the International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, or ICBN. And for animals, taxonomists evolved the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, the ICZN. Basically, these standardized scientific names make sure that every single organism has just one internationally recognized name. Section 2. The Universal Two-Word Code. So the scientific community came up with this brilliantly elegant solution, binomial nomenclature. Think of it as a specialized global language just for biologists. Brought to us by the pioneering scientist Carolus Linnaeus, this system gives every single known organism a two-part name. You've got the generic name, which comes first, and the specific epithet, which comes second. This two-word format turned out to be so incredibly convenient that biologists all over the planet still use it today. Now, to make absolutely sure nobody accidentally creates duplicate names, there are some very strict rules in place. First up, biological names are generally Latin in origin, and they're always written in italics to show that origin. Second, like we just mentioned, the genus comes first, followed by the specific epithet. Third, if you're handwriting the name, like on a whiteboard or in notes, both words must be separately underlined. And fourth, the genus always starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet stays entirely in lowercase. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how those rules are applied in the real world. Let's look at the scientific name for the everyday mango. Mangifera indica. Mangifera is the genus, capitalized. Indica is the specific epithet, all lowercase. But hey, do you notice that little lin at the very end? The rules of nomenclature actually state that the name of the author who first described the species appears at the end in an abbreviated form. So in this case, Lin tells us that the mango species was first formally described by Carolus Linnaeus himself. Section 3. Champions of the Species. All right, now that we know how species get their names, I want to briefly humanize the science here for a second. Because, these systems weren't built by magic, they were shaped by incredibly dedicated individuals. One of those absolute legends was Ernst Mayr. Born in Germany in 1904, Mayr became an evolutionary biologist at Harvard University, and his incredible career spanned nearly 80 years. His research touched on practically everything, from ornithology and taxonomy right down to the fundamental philosophy of biology. He almost single-handedly made the origin of species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that we recognize today. In fact, Mayer was so influential that he was famously dubbed the Darwin of the 20th century. He is widely considered one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. He even won what's basically the triple crown of biology, the Balzan, the International, and the Crafoord Prizes. But perhaps his most lasting legacy? He pioneered the currently accepted definition of a biological species, literally giving us the very framework we use to classify those 1.8 million organisms we were just talking about. Section 4. The Taxonomic Hierarchy. Okay, so we have the names, and we have the definition of a species. But how on earth do we build the big picture out of all this? Well, we use something called taxa. Because we obviously can't study every single organism individually all at once, we group them into convenient categories based on easily observable characters. To anchor this, just picture dogs versus mammals. You immediately recognize both as taxa, right? They're just functioning at entirely different levels of abstraction, based on the scale of shared observable characteristics. Let's move to and see how this builds into a true taxonomic hierarchy. We start all the way at the bottom with species, organisms with fundamental core similarities. Related species are then grouped into a genus. Related genera group into a family. Then comes order, class, phylum for animals, or division if we're talking about plants. And finally, sitting at the very top is the kingdom. So the absolute crucial point to remember here is that as we climb higher up this ladder, from species up to kingdom, the number of common characteristics shared by the organisms actually decreases. It gets much, much broader. Let's look at the genus level to really see this in action. A genus aggregates closely related species. For example, look at the lion, the leopard, and the tiger. They have totally different specific epithets, Leo, Pardus, and Tigris, because obviously they are distinct species. But because they share several vital common features, they are all grouped together under the single genus Panthera. Now step one rung higher up the ladder to the family level. Families have fewer similarities than a genus does. For instance, the genus Panthera, which includes those big cats we just mentioned, is grouped together with the genus Felis, which covers your smaller household cats. Together, they form the family Felidae. But what about dogs? Well, if you look at a cat and a dog, you see some similarities, sure, but a whole lot of differences. So, based on those differences, dogs are separated entirely into a different family altogether, called Canidae. And what's really interesting about this slide is how universally this somewhat mathematical structure applies to the absolute messiness of nature. A housefly belongs to the phylum Arthropoda, while a human, Homo sapiens, belongs to the phylum Chordata. A mango tree belongs to the plant kingdom and the class Dicotyledonnae. These organisms literally couldn't be more physically different from one another, yet they all fit perfectly, logically, into this exact same unified taxonomic system. It's like a giant, beautiful puzzle. Section 5. The takeaway. Our place in the world. As we step back from all the Latin names and the hierarchical tables, it's important to realize that taxonomy isn't just a dry exercise in memorization. The biggest spin-off of this monumental effort to describe life forms was actually a stunning revelation. It's the recognition that living organisms share similarities, both horizontally with each other today and vertically with their ancestors. It proved that all present-day living organisms are fundamentally related to each other and to all organisms that have ever lived on this earth. It is a profoundly humbling realization, and it directly sparked major cultural movements for the conservation of our planet's biodiversity. And honestly, the most exciting part? We are absolutely not finished. Remember those 1.8 million known species? While estimates suggest there are millions more out there, still waiting to be identified, characterized, and placed into our beautiful, ever-growing tree of life. It's an active, ongoing science. So with vast oceans and deep forests still unexplored, what undiscovered branch of the living world do you think we will name next? Keep that curiosity alive, and thanks so much for exploring the living world with me today.